by the letter of everything. Do we have is there any reordering of the agenda items? I think not, but if so, let me know. Good. And if I could just get a motion to adopt the agenda as it stands.
I'll move.
Okay, moved. Second?
Second.
Okay, Kim, thank you for that. Moved and seconded. And let's do a roll call vote, the vocal vote. All in favor, I'll start with Rushmore Cervantes.
Aye.
Member Kenny.
Aye.
And then member, trustee Andrews is an aye for me. So the adoption of the agenda is complete. And then Diego, do we have any public comment on any items?
As of right now, we have not received anything either at our hello at the email or via our forms.
Okay, great. So
Gary, I just received a phone call on my phone and I'm wondering if it was public comment. Let me see if I get a voicemail. If so, I'll let you know.
okay.
As of right now, I don't see a voicemail, but if I do have one that ends up being public comment, I'll
Okay, we'll interrupt the proceedings and make sure we get that done. So the other thing that we need to do is a consent calendar, and would be the approval of the consent calendar, which would be the minutes from the March 25th meeting. So can I get a motion, please, to approve the consent calendar?
Could we amend the motions to change the spelling on my last name? It's Kenne. I think I saw it on the minutes incorrectly.
Okay. So noted. And then is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the changes made by member Kenny?
I'll move as amended.
Second.
Second, okay, thank you so much. All in favor? Again, let me get you through the voice vote. Member Kenny,
Yes.
member Cervantes,
Aye.
and then member Andrews is aye. So that will launch us into the agenda for today's meeting, which would be solely a look at the work product of the two work groups and advising the two hires we're recommending, because we'll report those and we'll recommend those in our full board meeting next week. And I didn't really have a format in mind for this other than just to sort of open it up for comment. And I'm wondering if we could start with the comment from the group that worked on the municipal advisory services, some of the high points and considerations that you all were involved with on that.
You want me to just provide a quick overview of the process and then potentially
Comment on the members.
could make comment after that? Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so as everyone is aware, based on our staff report, we posted the municipal advisory RFP on February the 23rd on BidNet. It closed on April the 1st. We received 7 proposals from firms that are listed in the staff report. In addition to that, staff was asked to assemble a working group that would score the proposals. At the March 25th special meeting, we met with the CFD committee to talk about the scoring criteria and also at that point share the people that would serve on each group. So with the municipal advisory proposal scoring, it was trustee Cervantes, member Kenny, myself, our administrative services manager, Nicole Fabry, as well as our accountant, Cindy Byram, who acted in a expert capacity, as well as bond counsel attorney, Tom Vandiver, who's serving as special consultant for us as well. We met as a group on March the 31st to talk about those scoring criteria and identify the kinds of things that we would be considering in each criteria so that we were kind of all on the same page as we approached proposal scoring. The group did agree that if we didn't receive a large number of proposals that each of us would all score them, and that was the case. So I sent them out on April the 1st. I think it was April 2nd to give the group time to score. We then came together on April 6th and pretty much found consensus in the top 3 firms that we agreed scored the best based on their proposals submitted. Those were Columbia Capital Management, Fieldman, Rolap and Associates, and Urban Futures, Inc. The group agreed that we thought we should do an interview process. So although not all 6 of us were available to do the interviews last Friday, the working group did talk through what questions we thought we should ask in the interview process. And we put together those, and I ran all the questions by the full group as well. So Trustee Cervantes, Attorney Tom Vandiver, Nicole, and I held interviews on April the 9th in the morning. And as I shared in the staff report, we all were in agreement that the top firm that we wanted to recommend to the CFD committee to then hopefully vote to recommend to the full board was Urban Futures, Inc. In the package today, you can see the scoring of all 7 firms from the initial proposal scoring, and then also the final scoring that we came to with the interviews last Friday. So that's a quick overview. I don't know if Kim or Rushmore would like to add any commentary or thoughts on the process.
Sure, I'll go first, and Kim. I just want to first thank Nikki and the staff at the library for a lot of work to go into putting this together, along with the other RFP, and going through the proposals, and walking us through the criteria, and being flexible as we created this. I thought that by and large we had a really robust discussion about the proposals and how they were presented, with a keen eye on this specificity to the criteria that we had approved. We were all in agreement further, once the scores were tallied, that there were 3 proposals that really were head and shoulders above the other 4, which required an interview. And we all agreed in that interview that it was very helpful that we did have those interviews, because it's one thing to have a proposal before you and have it nice, shiny and glossy, but really you get a better sense of the organization during the interview. And I will go back for a moment and say that all 7 were valid, organizations that could do the job. So it really was, trying to vet out which one was going to be the best for us, and made us feel as though we were selecting the right organization for the library district that would represent the district as well as the constituents. And it wasn't necessarily that the original organization that had the highest score that was awarded were recommending. It was really the one that spoke to us the best, and really I thought answered all the questions that we had, both from a fiduciary standpoint, but a communication standpoint, and how that they would communicate not only to the constituents, but the library staff, to anyone in the that's involved. And I thought that they presented an overall solid proposal that we could all feel comfortable with. And furthermore, that as it turned out, their proposal price was the lowest. And I bring that up only at the very end, because that was really the least of our worries, although we're always cost conscious. But we really wanted to bring the best organization in, and the difference between the lowest and the highest was not huge, but certainly they were in the lowest end. They were the lowest of all of them, and it just happened to be that they were the best from the interview proposal, and of course they were the top 3. So I thought that overall the process was solid, and I think we've got the best proposal before you.
I don't have a lot to add since I wasn't in the interviews, but I mean, was there some factor that you guys felt was really, really important that they had in the interview, or was it more just, the overall score?
It was a combination of things, Kim. I mean, first of all, there was really a stark contrast, whether it was going to be, whether we're going to be going competitive or negotiated. And there was stark contrast, one as to the answers, but it was the manner in which they responded. And it was really, they all had the answers to a certain degree. It was more of, they were speaking to us, and they knew what we needed to hear, in that they understood there was a certain level of wanting to interact with us. At the same time, they brought a perspective that we felt that was professional, and had the confidence that would have the confidence of not just of us, but we felt like the way they communicated, that they would have the confidence of the community. I'm talking about all of the people of Aldina. And when they present, we felt that not only did they have the expertise, but they could really speak with confidence and represent us well. That was really important. And that really spoke clearly to us. And you couldn't get that from the pages.
The one thing I would add to that is to the question we asked about whether they anticipated a negotiated or competitive sale. Urban Futures actually presented the idea that we could potentially offer bonds to the community as part of the process, like their first stab at being able to purchase. And I think that really spoke to them understanding the Altadena community and how involved the residents are with the library and this potential to be able to like be part of the purchase process, as well as I think Urban Futures was definitely the strongest in terms of talking about the community engagement process also, like how they were going to help inform the community through this so that everybody understands what's going on their tax rolls, how the money's being spent, and just like educating all of us along that path. So in addition to like just really making us feel confident that we would work well with them, it was also those other pieces, I think, that really kind of put them over the finish line.
I've had the feeling ever since we started this that the people that we hire that will give us the most sort of procedural advice and steering advice would be the municipal services advisors. Like, okay, here's what you do first, here's what you do second, et cetera. They're sort of like totally in our corner. And I don't know why I think that, maybe it's the name of the service, but did you get the impression that these folks will be filling a role similar to that as we move forward?
Yeah,
they're going to be sort of the ones that have the, all of the guiding, procedures that we need to follow.
No, I definitely feel like they're almost going to be like a ex officio staff member, to guide us through all of the next steps that we have to go through. And you really got the sense that Urban Futures all of the firms understand that process, but really like will work closely with us to make the right decisions and choose the right method for this whole bond issuance process. The whole answers we got about the negotiated versus competitive sale, like they were educating us that day on basically like your next step is you got to get your credit rating. And that's going to determine things that we hadn't even thought about as well. Like if you get a really, really high credit rating, which potentially is possible as they let us know, because many CFDs that are developed or that are formed are on undeveloped property. So it's kind of a guessing game in terms of like selling these bonds to help provide infrastructure. Whereas like we have a established CFD area. So I do think that's going to help us with this credit rating process. But beyond that, it's like, what are next steps? And again, like Rushmore, I don't know if you want to speak to this too, but I really felt like, like with our capital project management firm, they're going to almost act like a staff member as we move through these next couple months of the bond issuance process.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Nikki, you pretty well covered it. I mean, they basically told us how they're going to lead this. They'll defer to the board, but in a manner which is respectful, but also with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was some that when the presentations, other proposals were saying, well, you could do it this way or this way, and it's really up to the board. It's like, well, okay, that's nice. I know it's our decision, but we need somebody that's just going to be firm. It's like, you need to go this way, and this is the alternative, but this is the way you should go. And there's something to be said about having that level of confidence that will also, help in all facets of this process. That they've been through it all, and they have got a vast amount of experience. So it'll bode well for us.
And they did also start out their interview by saying they like to build long-term relationships with the organizations that they do work with. So it's like they're invested in seeing our success long-term, not just getting us through this process and then moving on.
Just out of curiosity, how was your interview set up? Was it simply a Zoom call with 4 or 5 of you on the line? Okay.
Mhm. Well, there was the 4 of us, and then each firm either had 2 or 3 people there representing them.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you do them in sort of like a cycle then? You have one firm come on and then the next one, et cetera? Okay.
We had Urban Futures first, and we gave 30 minutes, and all of them adhered to the 30 minutes, which was impressive, honestly. We gave ourselves 15 minutes to discuss after, and then moved on to the next. The second one was Columbia Capital, and the third Fieldman Roll-Up and Associates.
And then Kim, I had a question for you that's based on a notation or a blind that I saw that was attributed to you, I believe, and you had a comment that you wanted to make sure that questions that were used in the interview wouldn't be leading questions or have any implicit bias in them and so on. And wonder, if you had a chance to review the questions that were on here and if they matched pretty much with what you were hoping for. I think I've got that right.
I'm not sure I made that comment. I think my only comment, there was one question that I thought different people could answer to different levels of detail. And I was worried that if it was too early in the interview, it might take up all the rest of the time. And there was a lot of good questions on there. That was the only comment I had.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, might have sent that one in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one more thing for you while I've got you. As I believe I look back on your resume and the material you sent for your application, you had listed a bond oversight committee work at PUSD. And I just wonder what that entails and if we need to start, how we need to start developing that if it comes to a committee, guardrails or guidelines for that sort of a thing.
Well, the Prop 39, which I'm pretty sure is also the one that it governs the general obligation bonds, and then the oversight committee. It's interesting because I know the public often thinks that they're providing oversight on how the money's spent, what it's spent on, how efficiently it's spent, whether the buildings are going well. But really, the Citizens Oversight Committee, what the law says is, after the money's been spent, please opine as to whether it was spent according to the letter of the bond language that was passed by the electorate. So it doesn't, and so people run them very differently. Some people kind of stick to that, so they really don't have a lot of input. Whereas I understand that LAUSD, their bond oversight committee, actually does review like building plans before it goes to their school board for approval. So the oversight committee really is more on, to say to the taxpayer, your money was spent the way it was supposed to. And it's really our school board that said, yes, that bond seems like a good deal for the taxpayers. And it was really the staff who worked more intimately with the bond council and the municipal advisors and then brought those results to our school board. So I don't know if that's helpful.
No, that is helpful because I think we're going to need to set up some sort of an expectation with everybody about how things like that will get reviewed. And as we move into this, I have zero experience in this, so I'm looking to anybody that can help us out. All right. And another curious thing I found, and I think you might have mentioned it, Nikki, is that, and you can see it in the scores, is that urban planning? Is that the group?
Urban Futures.
Urban Futures, they sort of reversed their position almost. So they must have been a very impressive group to interview.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we were very glad we did the interviews, for sure.
Well, that's terrific. Nikki, do you want to go ahead and talk about or first of all, I should ask, are there any other questions or observations from anybody on the call? And you want to just launch into the bond council end of things, or treat this as sort of you need to have like a standalone vote for each of these things?
I think we need to,
Standalone.
I missed that. What was that?
Standalone vote. We should do this separately.
Okay, I think you're right, probably too. Okay, good. So I have no more questions, and I guess I'm prepared to take a motion from the group about a vote to approve Urban Futures as the municipal advisory services vendor to the full board at the next meeting next week. So is there a motion? Does anybody have a motion for
Sure, I'll move
that?
confidently.
And I'll second.
Okay, good. So again, I'll vocal roll call, all in favor. We'll start with Member Kenny,
Aye.
Member Cervantes,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you for that. Good work. So next comes the bond counsel process, which is similar except without the interviews to what you all did. And Nikki, you did a great job presenting the last one. I'll let you go ahead with this one as well.
All right, thank you. So basically repeating a lot of what I just said, this process ran very parallel to the other with the municipal advisory. Again, posted the RFP for Bond and Disclosure Council on February 23rd on BidNet, with it closing on April the 1st. This working group was that we put together included myself, our IT manager, Christopher Kellermeyer, largely because Nicole is very busy, so I didn't want to ask her to sit on both working groups. And Christopher has written many RFPs and gone through many proposal processes, so made sense to have him sit in with us, as well as Trustee Andrews, CFD committee member Jim Batal, and then again, our special consultant, bond counsel attorney, Tom Vanderberg. We met as the working group on March 31st to review the criteria that had been developed again by this group on March 25th at your special meeting. And again, talked through how we would be scoring the proposals that came in based on that criteria, which was a little different, as you all know, from the municipal advisory one. So we did receive 5 proposals by the deadline of April the 1st. I emailed those out to the working group that night, with all 5 of us scoring all 5 of those proposals as well. We came back together as the working group on April 7th to share our scoring of the proposals and talk through those as a group. We did feel that 2 of the firms really stood out above the rest, with BB&K being the top scoring firm, kind of substantially. So talking especially to our industry expert, which was Tom Vanderberg, we all agreed that BB&K was the top choice, especially based on like some work that he has done with them in the past. They are our general counsel, and we did work with them last year on the CFD formation with their bond counsel. So the one other thing that came out of that conversation is that we will also, if we do award this contract to BB&K as our bond and disclosure counsel, that we will need to engage with another law firm to review the disclosure documents that are produced by BB&K, just to have like this third party oversight to make sure that the district's interests are being looked out for, let's say, because we wouldn't want to use our general counsel since it's the same firm. So there was a discussion about potentially utilizing the second place firm, which was Stradling, Yaka, Carlson, and Roth in that capacity potentially in the future. But we all agreed that we didn't feel that we really needed to do a round of interviews. So Terry, do you have any additional comments to add?
No, I mean, I think we did a pretty thorough oversight of all of them, and the point total was fairly close in some cases. There were a couple that we were ruled out fairly early and universally, but Stradling and BBK were sort of neck and neck a little bit there for a while until we did a little deeper dive into their proposal. They do have a less expensive cost, and they will have a larger charge for the first bond issue, but it'll be less than that later on. And their hourly rates were pretty good as well. The nice thing for me personally is that we know them very well over the last few years. They've really helped us out. And I found them to be responsive, the main thing, and they show up to the meetings when they're asked to and so on. So they have a track record of showing up and providing really good service for this already. And when we're in a jam, as we were a couple of times back in the day, they really helped us out. So there's a large level of trust and goodwill that's already baked into that. we think they do a really good job. Plus, the cost issue made them even more attractive. And they seem to have a pretty good team put together to handle this issue with us as well. Any questions? Yes, Kim?
So on the cost, and this, I'm sorry, I was just kind of scrolling through what was posted. So, sorry. So it seemed as though one firm had one cost that was for each issuance of the two that you posted. And then the firm I think that we're choosing is the one that's the 45K for each series.
Yes.
So, but that, is that, do I have that correct?
Well, are you looking at the BB&K one?
Right,
Yeah.
but then it says if there is only one issuance, it's actually a larger amount. So, so there's a, it's a less expensive if there's two issuance and it's more if there's one.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's more than there's one. Some of them came in at $45,000 for the council part, and my reverses, and the other would be the disclosure part. But they were coming in at 45 plus 35. So every time you made an issuance. So assuming that we might have more than one issuance that we do, since this will go for several years probably, I sort of baked that into the idea that they'd have $65,000 as the initial one, and then it would back off to $45,000 for every issuance after that. I don't know to what extent we'll use their hourly rates, but their hourly rates were actually very competitive. I think they were the lowest of all of them.
Did you, through the interviews, start getting a sense of whether one or two issuances? I mean, I know we know that there will be costs every time we do an issuance, and so we wanted to limit it, but are you getting a sense that probably doing one won't be enough?
That's my sense. And you mentioned interviews. We did not interview our group. We made a decision based on the point total. So, that's an important point to make to everybody. We didn't talk to them, but we did feel as if we'd given them a pretty thorough vesting and vetting, I should say, and had a good sense of each one's sort of personality. But in terms of the number of issuances on the bond thing, we're thinking it's probably going to be more than one because they seem to be annual issuances that they do. And this is going to take, according to the project manager or another timeline that I saw, about a four-year process to get this all done.
But the municipal advisor is really going to be the one that's going to give us the most guidance, whether it's going to be one or two. They're the ones that are going to do the analysis and present to the board to see what makes the most sense, depending on the timeline of the construction and how much cash we're going to have on hand, and if it makes sense to do one or two. So that the bond council will just take the lead based on whatever the decision is to how many, whatever it's one or two or three, that they don't really care. They're just going to take the decision from the board based on advice and recommendations from the advisory services company.
Right. Sorry if I wasn't clear. I was kind of saying maybe when you spoke more with the municipal advisors during their interviews, they might have started to give us an indication that one issuance might not work. And so then that gave information kind of looking at these cost things from the bond council. So that's what I meant. Sorry.
No, and I don't think there's a strong feeling one way or the other. Yeah, I do think the municipal advisory firm will be in close conversation with the capital project management firm, because we met with them this week actually in person and toured the buildings. And as long as the money is committed to specific projects, then you're okay within that 3-year parameter, right? So I do think that if we can cost estimate wisely and do one issuance, we're much better off. But we're going to have to see what that looks like in terms of the timeline that the capital project management team is putting together with us and the advice of our municipal advisor. So most of the other, and I only included the top two firms in the package today, but all of the other firms, like to Terry's point, had $45,000 for bond and $30,000 for disclosure, whereas BB&K combined as well as straddling. So we just felt like fiscally they were both the better option too in terms of cost.
A question on the necessity of yet another law firm to check on the awardee that we're going to decide on today. How extensive of a contract would we be looking for that? And is that something that our existing legal counsel could or could not do?
Well, it's interesting because when we first met with Tom and discussed him acting as a special consultant for us, he brought up that point that if you have the same firm doing both, that you would, the responsible thing to do would have an outside firm look at the disclosures. Because like we could have Rich, who's our general counsel, review. And of course we think he's professional and all that's great, but it is his own firm that would be producing these documents. And the way I see it is we're either going to be paying him or we're going to pay another firm. So based on our questions with Tom about that last week during the scoring, I believe it would just be very limited, only when we're producing the disclosure documents, and we could pay an attorney like on an hourly basis to review those, and just as a like a third party oversight to make sure that it's in the best interest of us.
Yeah, and by the way, just on a side note, administratively, what authority limit do you have as director to issue checks on behalf of the district? So in other words, if we're not going to do, we could give you give an actual authority, but do you have like $1,000? What's your threshold that you can do without any board authority to cover a cost like?
$10,000 is the most that we can spend with any vendor or consultant or, you know, whomever, without going to the board for approval.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So is maybe Terry, are you suggesting that, or Nikki, that we should, as part of our action, in addition to going forward with a recommendation to award the legal services contract, but also this third or this secondary legal advice, or we want to take that under advisement and do it at a later time?
Well, I think we can bake that into our recommendation. Yeah, I think that would be wise to do. You know, the chief purpose of that, as far as I'm concerned, is to improve the transparency of this whole thing. Because if, and you know, to Nikki's point, it would, you know, maybe present some ethical problems. I'm not even sure for BB&K to take care of both of those things. So having the outside one makes sense to me. So we could go ahead.
Yeah, my own concern, Terry, would be is that we would be voting on something, one that wasn't. You did a competitive selection process, and I don't doubt the second runner-up. The runner-up would be more than capable of doing it. I just don't know what the price tag we'd be voting on. Would it be based on the hourly that's on this proposal, or would it be basically voting and have on giving them the contract, and then have them give us something back as far as a price? I mean, that's my only concern, because I feel like I'd be voting on something I don't know the price. I agree with the selection. I just don't know what the price is.
I would actually advise against, because I haven't even discussed the possibility with the firm. So
yeah, exactly.
You know, we could potentially even use Tom. You know what I mean? Because I don't anticipate this oversight to be something that would have to go back to the board. But again, like I haven't, until we appoint, I'm not going to reach out to the firms. So. It would be
that's probably best. Yeah, I think that's probably best. I mean, I understand, Terry, we made the selection, and that could very well be, you know, based on the conversation that she would have with the runner-ups, like, hey, would you be interested? What was your price? Just out of curiosity. And then, you know, maybe talk to her own legal counsel. I mean, just kind of get a price point, and maybe if it's cheap enough, we could have Nikki do it under her own authority.
Well, I do think it's probably advisable for us to have full disclosure in whatever recommendation we make to the board. So for us to say that we recommend BB&K with the possibility or likelihood, whatever you want to say, of us needing an hourly attorney to take a look at their guidance to us, just to, you know, for transparency, basically, because they're already our in-house counsel. And I don't know exactly how we would word it, but I do think it would be good to bring it up in whatever recommendation we make. That's my personal feeling.
Okay. Yeah, without naming a firm, I could see that. Yeah.
Something like that, with the possibility that we might hire a per diem or an hourly
Oh,
attorney
yeah.
to take a look.
Oh, yeah, that's very important, Terry. I agree.
So unless there's more questions or conversation, okay, maybe we need to start, I need to ask for a motion like that, and that would be that we recommend that we hire BB&K as our bond disclosure counsel, and that we want exactly how would you say it? With the possibility that we would need additional services for oversight for their guidance or something like that. And explain this to them in discussion when we're actually at the board meeting. Anybody have a better way to word it than that? Something like that.
Oh, I think it sounds good.
Okay.
That's
So I guess I'd be asking for a motion from someone that recommends the hiring of BB&K as the bond counsel and disclosure, with the possibility that we might hire additional legal services to review their pronouncements going forward.
I'll move.
Okay, good, moved. I keep looking
Second.
for the second, Kim. I'm not even sure I can do that. Okay, so moved and seconded for that motion. And let's take a voice roll call. Member Kenny,
Aye.
Member Cervantes,
Aye.
Member Andrews, aye. So that motion passes. Thank you so much. And I think that's all we have on the agenda for today. The last item before adjournment would be if there are any future items you'd like to put on the list. Our next meeting is actually scheduled for April the 20th, I'm sorry, May the 12th.
Yeah.
So if you think of anything, you can always phone it in and we'll make sure it gets on the agenda.
Sounds good.
Right. So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. I move that we adjourn.
Okay. Then I'll second that.
Okay, good.
All-
So the meeting is adjourned at 3:42 p.m. and thank you everybody for all the hard work on this and the frantic meeting schedule and everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank
Not
you.
very well. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
And Kim will get your name corrected.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.